먼저 첫 번째로 글로벌 플랫폼과 지역의 상생 협력 사례라는 주제로 에바쿱의 라파엘 가드레오 최고 기술 책임자님께서 수고해 주시겠습니다. 무대로 모시겠습니다. 박수로 환영해 주십시오.
No, I need the thing to put next. Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for welcoming me in your beautiful country. It's been a pleasure since I arrived yesterday. My name is Raphaël Gaudreault. I'm a Chief Technology Officer. And by the way, it's really nice to see so many people interested in the sharing economy, especially at the government level. My grandfather always told me in life that there's three kinds of people. So the first kind are the people who don't know that there's a parade going on in the city. The second type of people are the people actually looking at this parade and enjoying it. And the third kind are the people walking in the parade and participating in it. So by being here today, you're of the third kind because sharing economy is the future. Today I'll be talking about the awakening of sharing economy at the dawn of decentralization. This is the title of the presentation. And I'll give all the ideas that created EVA. EVA is a ride-sharing company that I'm the co-founder of, running right now in the province of Quebec, Canada, where I'm living. So there's three concepts with EVA. These are the sharing economy, blockchain, cooperatism, and ride sharing. So I'll be defining all these concepts, summarizing it because the presentations before did it so well. And here's a disclaimer that you can share all the content within this presentation freely, and that this presentation is my personal opinion as an individual. So first, the sharing economy, this is a model that is really different from what we've seen since the industrialization of the economy, because this is based on an excess asset that some people have. In the case of EVA, which is in ride sharing, this is the driver members that are answering to this demand. So it's relying on the exchange of good, and in this case a monetary exchange for giving some extra space in a vehicle, which there's so many right now in the modernized world. So and then there's a user fee. So basically there's usually a platform in the middle for the connection between this rider or driver in the ride-sharing case. So yeah, this is a use of excess capacity. This is based on use rather than ownership. The sharing economy has a multiplicity of fields. It is possible. We're talking a lot about mobility today, but could be about food, could be about books, could be about many things. Right now with a bigger density of population, it's possible to get access to goods really quick. So, but these in concept are the sharing economy principles, so we hope for a dematerialization of intermediaries. So, because right now we have a lot of environmental problems globally, these would be like the facts we would like about sharing economy. But sometimes the truth is the sharing economy is about monopolization by a few. We're seeing right now big platforms, as we've talked, like Amazon, Uber, taking over as platforms in many places of the world and monopolizing the market, sometimes destroying local companies that already existed. We are also seeing an aggregation of data. In the 21st century, data should be considered a personal commodity because it has a real value. The data of the people is used to train neural networks in artificial intelligence, and this data is sent for free to these intermediaries platforms. Also, we've seen with the rising of the sharing economy, sometimes regulatory irregularity with sometimes a gray zone for operations for these platforms. Also, a trend we're seeing is the impoverishment of workers. Impoverishment in the sense that the conditions of the workers are sometimes algorithmically thought in the platform so that the workers get addicted to the platform with game theory. So, for example, the platform will encourage a driver to come more online using game theory to make him more available, but this driver doesn't necessarily make as much money using being in the gig economy. And also we're losing, for example, the social conditions of these workers. There's also a lack of transparency that we're sometimes seeing, and a centralization of management because we have a company based in a certain country that operates globally. So there's a centralization within the industry. So I'm gonna head up to blockchain, which is, you probably heard of blockchain or one of the utilization of this technology, for example, Bitcoin. So blockchain is quite complicated to explain, but basically is an open database in which there's many servers operating it. So blockchain in the case of Bitcoin is a distributed ledger. A ledger is an history of transactions that is distributed throughout the internet. And blockchain, we've said a lot of things about blockchain that was not regulated, and it's quite true in many cases. But one thing about blockchain is the transparency and the distribution of the database that is good and that can create decentralized digital platforms. And this is interesting in the case of the sharing economy. In blockchain, we're often talking about wasting or consuming in a useless manner electricity. Well, this is from 2009 technology with Bitcoin, but now things have evolved, and there's a thing called proof of stake algorithm, and it's now possible to have blockchain systems that scale globally without consuming electricity, and it's really interesting. So basically, from the use of blockchain, 74% of all people, meaning that the blockchain application must offer a simple, pleasant user experience. So the blockchain is complicated right now. The application built on blockchain, you need to manage the private key because you own your data and you're interacting with a node, and these applications are quite complicated as of now. And most people hear about cryptocurrencies, which is a utilization of blockchain, but is only one of these utilizations for transferring money in a decentralized manner. And another trend we're seeing is that 75% of all people are not bothered about the data they share with companies. So a lot of people use Facebook, use Google, use Uber, and they don't really care about all the data that they're giving for free to these companies. And data is a really important commodity nowadays. We often say that this is the fuel of the 21st century because this is on data that we actually create clever algorithms. So with blockchain, where we decentralize data by encrypting it because this is public, because the private data of the people needs to be encrypted and use clever cryptography to make it not readable by the public on an open database, it creates a nice opportunity for ride sharing. And that's what we're doing at EVA right now. We've built our own application on blockchain without the user realizing it because we've improved the user experience. So it creates a really nice opportunity for digital cooperatives. So that brings me to the co-op model. The cooperative model is a member-owned company. So right now, the ride-sharing, the EVA ride-sharing is owned by the driver members, which are members of the co-op, and the rider members. So this is a sustainable model because co-ops have shown to be more sustainable in the case of economical crisis in the last decades. It's also more transparent because all the data about the company is shared to all its members. So in the case of ride sharing here, the data is the rides and the data about the operation. So it's also about democratic management. So it's in our co-op operating in Canada, it's one member, one vote. So at the end of the year, all the decisions for example, electing an administrative council for managing the operations is done by the members. So it's really democratic. We now need to see, according to me, software as a protocol rather than some middleman entity. So, and democratic management is important for us. Another one is redistribution of resources. So basically, if there's a profit at the end of the year in which the member decide to distribute it for society or for the drivers themselves, this is possible using this. So if there's an overhead profit, it can be redistributed with the cooperative model. Another subject that defines EVA is ride sharing. We've seen ride sharing arrive everywhere in the world right now. It's popular, it's a disruptor in the taxi industry. It's a disruptor in case of user experience. You don't wait as long before your transportation arrives, and you actually see on the phone what time your driver will arrive. So it's an industry that is really increasing. And in the ride-sharing economy, it's interesting to see where there's the Metcalfe's law. So Metcalfe's law is about network effects. So basically, it was really well explained in the last presentations, but in this network effects, the more people you have in the network, the more value you have. So basically, it's not growing linearly, but exponentially, because the experience of the users get better as the number of people grow within a network. So for example, with a chat application, if you only have 2 persons in the chat application, this is not a good chat application. But if you have all your friends on the chat application, that brings you to this chat application, there's a lot of value. And this is the case for ride sharing because you want your driver to be really close to you. And the more drivers there is, the more, the shorter time you actually wait. And if we take those 3 types of application, so for example, Uber is a case of capitalist application. So it's an incorporated company that acts as a middleman within a peer-to-peer exchange when there's a ride, and in the hope to turn it into a profit at the end of the year. And you have a decentralized application which is totally decentralized, like Bitcoin, where there's no company, no regulation, there's a foundation. But yeah, and you have a cooperative application. A good example of a cooperative application is Fairbnb. Fairbnb is a cooperative approach to the industry of Airbnb. So basically, it's about moving to a city, but instead of having the owners being only workers, they're now part and member of a co-op to decide democratically on the operations of the company locally, which is the same for EVA. So EVA is the mix of those three ideas. And I really hope that our experience at EVA can create ideas here in South Korea. Right now we have more than 1,000 drivers in Canada. We're only starting off. It's been less than a year we're operating, but we're seeing a lot of interest by our members because of this sense of belonging within the cooperative, because the drivers are not staying alone in their cars anymore. They're now part of a movement, of a community, because they now have part of the management of the company as well. And that's why we've seen a nice growth so far in our first month of operations. So thank you very much. If you want to look and have more information about EVA, we're available on all these social medias. And that's it.
네, 이렇게 에바쿱 라파엘 가드레오 최고 기술 책임자님의 발표까지 들어봤습니다.